Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to lecture number 20 of the course Introduction to Computer and Programming. In this lecture, I will give the introduction of the 2D array. Then we see how we initialize the two-dimensional array, how the memory is allocated for the two-dimensional array, and how we can access the element of two-dimensional array using a pointer. And then we will see array of pointers. It seems like if we have an array of integer, array of float, array of characters, we can have array of pointers in which each element contains the memory address of a variable or any other memory location. And then we will see how we can pass two-dimensional array to a function, and that function, let's say, display the values of the elements of that two-dimensional array. Let's overview our previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we have seen a program that uses pointer arithmetic that increments the value, that is address held by the pointer, and we have seen what are the effects of that increment. And the effect are, if the pointer is integer, the increment of 4 is performed, and if the pointer type of the pointer is character, increment of 1 is performed. Why increment of 4 and why increment of 1? Because the integer value takes 4 bytes in memory, and if we increment the integer pointer, that means it points to the next integer value that is 4 bytes away from the current address. Then we have seen some sorting techniques, and we have seen in detail selection sort, जिसको हमने dry run भी किया था. Then I've shown you how bubble sort and insertion sort work, and I gave you as a homework that you should write the program for the bubble sort and insertion sort. Then passing an entire array to a function, and here we have seen that the only option available to us is the pass by address. We have to pass the base address of the array, and that functions contain a pointer that points to that memory location where the array elements are stored, and that function access that original array element using a pointer. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अगर वो called function array के elements को change करना चाहे तो it can change the elements of that array, and that change also appear in the main function. अगर आप दोबारा function के execution के बाद main function में वापस आएं और इस array को print करें तो वो change elements, change value ही आपको मिलेंगी. This is why, because the function won't create a copy of the array. आप जब भी पास करेंगे उसको base address पास करेंगे array का function को. Then array and pointers. So today's lecture outline. In today's lecture, I will introduce you a two-dimensional array. We will see what is a two-dimensional array, and so far we have seen one-dimensional array. And then initializing two-dimensional array, memory map of two-dimensional array. 2D stand for two dimension. Okay, memory map means how the memory will be allocated to two-dimensional array, and the pointer and two-dimensional array, how we can access the element of the two-dimensional array using a pointer. And then array of pointers, a collection of elements, and each element contains the memory address, that is a array of pointer. Passing 2D array to a function, that will be the last topic for today. So a two-dimensional array. It is also possible for array to have two or more dimension. So if we write integer x and within square bracket 10 and semicolon, this means that we are declaring a one-dimensional array that contains 10 elements. So it is also possible to declare an array that contains two or more dimensions. So these square brackets actually represents the dimension of the array. If you have a one pair of square brackets, as we have so far, that is a one-dimensional array. If we have two pairs of square brackets, that means that it is a two-dimensional array, and if we have three pairs of square brackets opening and closing, then this means that that is a three-dimensional array. For example, you want to input roll number and marks of 4 students. So roll number and marks are input, and 4 students के आपने roll number और marks input लेने हैं. So what are the possible ways to write the program? Since we know one-dimensional array, for this problem we can have two one-dimensional array. So one-dimensional array, first one-dimensional array is for the roll number, and the second one-dimensional array is for the marks. And it is also possible to have a two-dimensional array that can be used to store these values. हमारे पास एक ही array होगी जो कि इन दोनों values को store कर रही है, and that array is the two-dimension array. उसकी दो dimensions होंगी, x and y, right? So this is a small program using a two-dimensional array. Here you can see that there are two parts of the program, the first for loop and the second for loop. The first for loop is used to take input from the user, and the second for loop is just displaying those input value. The first statement is the declaration where we are declaring a two-dimensional array. So you can see the two pair of this, the first pair and that is the second pair. So two pair of square brackets, then this means that this is a two-dimensional array. And the first thing represents the row and the second thing represents the column. This means that STUD array has 4 rows and 2 columns. So whenever you have a two-dimensional array, the first pair of square brackets represents row and the second pair of square brackets represents the column. So now we can say in a form of figure, we can say that this is a one column having 4 rows, this is the second column having 4 rows, and this whole represents the STUD array that contains 4 rows, 0th index, 1st index, 2nd index, 3rd index, and 2 columns, 0th index and 1 index. Now if I want to access this column, you can see the cursor of the mouse or the pointer of the mouse, and this element is 2, 1. So if we write STUD square bracket 2 and square bracket 1, then this means that this is this element, right? So this is the 0th column is for the roll number and the 1th column is for the marks. So this column contains the roll number, 4 roll numbers, and this column contains the marks of these 4 roll numbers. So roll number 1 comes over here, and the marks of roll number 1, first roll number, comes over here. So a row, this is a one row containing 2 values, that is one record. ठीक है, so एक record होगा. What is a record? A roll number and the marks of that roll number. वो roll number जिस student के marks, that is one record. So this two-dimensional array contains 4 records, 1, 2, 3, 4. So marks and the roll number and the marks, and then the roll number and the marks for that roll number, and roll number and the marks and the roll number and then the marks, right? So loop हमारा 4 टाइम execute होगा. So I is equal to 0, I is less than or equal to 3 and I plus plus. So this means the loop executes 4 times. Here you can see that the column value is fixed, that is 0 and 1, because we have 2 columns. So 0th column mein you have to store the roll number value. So the message you are going to display is enter roll number and marks. So first the user enter roll number and then he enters marks, right? So this column is for the roll number, 0th column is for the roll number, and 1st column is for the marks, and the value of I is changing. So initially the value of I is 0. So 0, 0 means that this element, right? So this element is 0, 0. When the value of I is 0, and the message will be displayed enter roll number and marks. So you first enter roll number, and the roll number will be stored at the address and STUD 0, 0, and that is the address of this element. ये जो element है इसका address है, ठीक है? और जहाँ पे आपने roll number store कर दिया, let's say 10 is the roll number and this is STUD01. So first square brackets always represents row. So row number 0, column number 1, roll number 0, column number 0, that is this element. So row number 0, column number 1, that is that second element, right? Then the value of I will be incremented, condition will be check, increment होके value of I will become 1, the condition is 1 less than or equal to 3, the condition is true. So again it display the message enter roll number and marks. Now this time we are going to store the value at std10 and std11. so this is now 10 and the value store is, let's say, 12. user ने 12 value input की थी, and this is 11 and the value store is 65. let's say 65 user ने value input की थी, that will be stored over here. ठीक है, so see 1, that is the 1th row and 0th column. So 1th index row and 0th column, and 1th index row and 1th column. So the value comes over here. Okay. And then the value of I is incremented, it becomes 2, condition is 2 less than or equal to 3, condition is still true. So you have the message again, enter roll number and marks, and this time the roll number and the marks will be stored at the address and stud20. So 20 is this element. Let's say user ने जो value input की थी, that is 13, that will be stored over there, and 21 is this element, and the value entered by the user is, let's say, 89, and the 89 value will be stored at this position. Then again the value of I is incremented, the value of I becomes 3. So 3 less than or equal to 3, condition is true. So this is the last time loop will be executed. Display, the message will be displayed again, enter roll number and marks, and now this time the roll number is stored at stud30, and this is this element, and 14, let's say user ने input किया था, that will be stored in that place 30 location पर, or 31 is this position you see in the figure, and let's say the user enter marks 92, that will be stored at place stud31. And then the value of I is incremented further and the loop terminates, because I value of I become 4 less than or equal to 3, condition become false, it comes outside the loop, then it comes in this loop, and value of I is again initialized with 0. So now this loop will be executed 3 times. So you see in the second for loop, so this system pause is not the part of the second for loop. Okay, so system pause is not the part of the second for loop. The only statement that comes inside that for loop is this printf statement, right? So that's why there is no we didn't put the curly braces over here. We put the curly braces over here because there are 2 statements that comes inside the block of the for loop. First for loop, that's why we put the curly braces, and there is no curly braces because there is only single statement as a block of for loop, and that single statement is a printf statement, and we are going to print the value of stud array. Now first time जब I की value 0 होगी, stud00 और 01 elements print हो जाएंगे screen पर, and these are 10 and 85. Then value of I become 1, and 12 and 65 will be printed. Value of I become 2, 13 and 89 will be printed, and then value of I become 3, and 14 and 92 will be printed on the screen. Right? Now let's go and see the program. So this is our program. So this is a 2-dimensional array of type integer, means that all the elements in this 2-dimensional array have the type integer. And the name of the array is stud, and the dimensions are 4 and 2. This means that this array contains 4 rows and 2 columns. So if I write it like this, then this means that this array stud contains 2 rows and 4 columns. Now this is a different dimension array, right? इसकी dimensions अब different हो जाएंगी. So 4 rows and 2 columns, that was the initial array. This is the for loop, that is for the input, and this loop is to print the value of that array. ठीक है? So let's compile this program first and execute it. So enter roll number and marks. Let's say roll number is 1 2 3 4, and the marks is, let's say, 65, and the roll number is 65634, and the marks is 75. The roll number is, let's say, 3489, the marks is 85. The roll number is 9091, marks is 95, let's say. So it prints the roll number and the marks, roll number, marks, roll number, marks, and roll number, marks. So you see, we have only now one variable, that is a two-dimensional array, that is used to store the roll number and the marks of each student. Okay, so we can solve the same problem using two one-dimensional array. The first array is for the roll number and the second array is for the marks. So हमारे पास दो arrays होती हैं और उन दोनों को फिर handle करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता, right? So let's see how we can initialize a two-dimensional array. We can initialize the two-dimensional array at declare time like this. So this is an array of 4 and 2 columns, 4 rows and 2 columns, and you know very well that you can write all these values in a one row as well. Okay, like this. So you can write all the values like this. So now the compiler knows that it has to create 4 rows and 2 columns of these values. So this means that 4 into 2, 8 values. So 8 values ये लाजमी होनी चाहिए. So it becomes first row, second row, third row and fourth row. Okay, so these are the correct way to initialize the two-dimensional array. So this is a correct way. This is also the correct way to initialize. Now this thing is optional, so you have to write the column number of columns in that two-dimensional array. So if you initialize the two-dimensional array at declare time, then the row number, telling the row number is optional thing. One-dimensional case में क्या था? If we initialize the one-dimensional array at declare time, then there is no need to specify the size of that array. We can leave that one pair of square bracket empty when we initialize a one-dimensional array. But if we won't initialize one-dimensional array at declare time, then we need to specify the number of elements in that array, because it has to allocate memory at declare time. So अगर declare time पे आपने initialize कर दिया, now with that initialization it knows that what is the size of that array. But if you don't initialize it at declare time, then might be you have to use that array further in the program. Then you have to mention that how many elements must be allocated for that array. For the two-dimensional array, you can initialize the two-dimensional array by providing row and column value and the initialization values. Okay, you can declare you can initialize the two-dimensional array at declare time by just providing the column value. So the row value is optional. The first square bracket is for the row and the second square bracket is for the column, and the first square bracket is optional. That means that it's okay if you don't provide the row number, but you have to provide the number of columns. So this is also the correct way. So the number of column is 3, then that means 1 2 3 1 2 3. So first row and second row. So the value here will be 2. But you cannot write like this. This is a wrong way of initialization. You have to mention the number of columns in that array, and that is also the wrong way if you won't write anything in the row and the column. So row number is optional, but you have to specify the column number while declaring a two-dimensional array and initializing it at a declared time. So if you don't initialize any array, whether it is two-dimensional, one-dimensional or three-dimensional array, then you have to specify its size. And in case of two-dimensional array, you have to specify its dimension, that you have to write row and column number of rows and number of columns at declare time if you don't initialize that array. But if you initialize that array, then it is optional to write row number, but the column number is the must thing that you have to provide it. Let's see the example program. Write a program that adds two matrices 4 by 4. दो matrices हैं, उसको add करें. This is matrix 1. How we add two matrices? This is matrix 2. If we add it, so we add it like this. We have to add this value in this value and store the result at the same location in the resultant matrix. So this is 7 because 4 plus 3 is 7. This is 7 because 5 plus 2 is 7. This is -1 because 6 plus -7 is -1, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So in this way you can fill out this matrix. Let's go and see the program. So this is the program. This is matrix number 1. Okay, this is 3 by 3 matrix, but the procedure is the same. This is again the 3 by 3 matrix, and if you want to add this is the resultant matrix where we want to store the result of the addition of these two matrices. Now we have two for loops, and this is the result. So initially the value of I is 0, and the loop executed, inner loop will be executed 0, 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, so value is 0, so value 0, 0, 0. So that will be stored at 0, 0 location. Then j will be incremented. So 0, 1 plus m of 0, 1. So same location पे element add करेंगे, and that will be stored at the in the result array at place 0, 1. ठीक है? So I think you can dry run this loop by yourself as well, and this is where we are going to display the result. यहाँ पे हम display कर रहे हैं result को. Display किस तरह से कर रहे हैं? We have again two for loops. So this is for the displaying of the results of the addition. So addition वाले array को हम display कर रहे हैं. We have to use two for loop. The one is for the inner loop is for to display the columns. Sorry, inner loop is for the to display the row, and outer loop is for the row number 0 and column number 0, row number 0, column number 1, row number 0, column number 2. So it displays the 0th row at 0th index. Okay? And then so inner loop is for to display the complete row, complete one row, and then the value of I will be incremented, it become 1. Now it display 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, right? इन तमाम elements को display कर देगा. Why we put /n? Because when it display the complete row, एक row को जब वो display कर देगा, then the next row comes in the next line. So when it display the complete row, one row contains 3 elements, so 3 times this loop will be executed. It display 3 values, and then there is a /n. The cursor comes to the next line, and the next row will be displayed on that line. So let's first run this program. So this is the result. So if you see the value, 2 plus 7, 9, 3 plus 3, 6, 4 plus 5, 9. So the last row, 8 plus 2, 10, 5 plus 3, 8, 3 plus minus 3, 0. Okay, so this is the result. And let's say if I comment out this /n from the program, then what will happen? It will write all the thing in the same line. See? So this is the first row, these 3 elements are the second row, and these 3 elements are the third row. Now you haven't put the /n, so that's why it prints all the element in the same line. So एक छोटा सा प्रोग्राम है, इसमें आप यूज़र से वैल्यू भी इनपुट ले सकते हैं. You can write a loop. आप इसी तरह से एक और लूप लिखेंगे, and you can input the value from the user. Let's say हम यहाँ पर वैल्यू यूज़र से इनपुट ले लेते हैं. Now we have 2 statements in the inner for loop. So let me write it in the bracket, enter value at. So हम एक मैट्रिक्स की वैल्यू इनपुट ले लेते हैं यूजर से. लेट्स से m1 की वैल्यू इनपुट ले लेते हैं, m2 की वैल्यू ऑलरेडी है. So let me comment out this value. So whatever matrix is input here, it will add this matrix with this matrix and store the result in result array. So let me write the code. Enter value at %dth row and %dth column. Scanf. So we have first 0th row, 0th column, or we can say that first row and first column, second row and second column. So we can write I plus 1 and j plus 1. Why we write I plus 1? it doesn't increment the value of I, it doesn't increment the value of j, because for the user, if there is a user who uses this program, that is for the addition of the two matrices, if a message is displayed, enter value at 0th row and 0th column. So 0 is nothing, right? Because you are a programmer, you are a C programmer, and you know that the array in the C start at index 0. So for you it is okay, but for the user, for a person who don't know C and who don't know the arrays in C and who don't know the array in C start with 0th index, all those things, then for them the message displayed should be like enter value at 1th row and 1th column, and enter value at 1th row and 2nd column, enter value at 1th row and 3rd column. So 0, 1, 2 will be 1, 2, 3 for him, okay? But actually the values are stored at the 0th index, 1th index and the 2nd index, right? M of I and j. So हम यहाँ पे values input ले लेंगे user से, right? So and m of I and j. So address of the element 0, 0 and then 0, 1, 0, 2, ठीक है? So एक रो की ये complete हो जाएंगी. Let's compile and execute. So we got an error. M. So it is M undeclared. So the name of the array is M1, not the M. So we have to write M1 over here. Compile, okay, and then execute this program. So enter value at 1th row and 1th column. So that is the first, that is the 0th index and 0th index, 0th row and 0th column for you. But if I write 0 over here, enter value at 0th row and 0th column, then for the ordinary person who is not a programmer, then it is very difficult for him to digest this thing, to realize that how I can enter value at 0th row and 0th column. So 0 is nothing actually. So the first row and first column, you should write the output message like that is convenient for the end user. So, and you know internally that value store at 0th index and 0th index. So 0th row or 0th column पे value store होगी first value, ठीक है? M row के. So the, let's say value is, let's say 2, enter value at 1th row and 2nd column, that is 3, enter value at 3rd row and 1th row and 3rd column. So जब भी 0th index वाली row का 3rd column चल रहा है, that means 2nd index चल रहा है. That's the value is 5. Third row 2nd column 3 and 9. So values complete हो चुकी हैं. Now it display the result like this. So it adds, so 7, 3, 5. So 7 will be added with this, the result is 9. 5 will be added, the second value is 7, 3, 5. Second value is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6 and 5 plus 5 is 10. So इसने इन दोनों arrays को add कर दिए, right? So that is the mechanism to take input values from the user in a two-dimensional array. You have to use two for loop, and that is how you can display these values, and that is how you perform some operation, some arithmetic operation on the two-dimensional array. Now let's see how the memory is allocated for two-dimensional array. Memory map, that how actually the memory is allocated for two-dimensional array. For the one-dimensional array, we know that the memory allocated is continuous. All the elements are allocated together and they are not scattered in the memory. For example, if we declare an array of 10 elements and the type of that array is integer, then all these 40 bytes will be allocated continuous. A group of 40 bytes will be allocated. वो एक साथ allocate होगी, scattered allocate नहीं होगी. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि 3 elements को separate जगह पे हुई है, 4 को separate जगह पे और then 3 को separate जगह पे हुई है. ऐसा नहीं होगा. So remember student array int s42. So this is the memory. We have seen the diagram that in the form of the matrix you can write two-dimensional array like this, and that is very easy to grab, that this is now two-dimensional, having rows and column. So this is the row and this is the column, right? So if you are here, you will see that it contains column number 1, column number 2, and if you are here you can see this is row number 1, row number 2, row number 3 and row number 4. Okay? But actually the memory allocated to the 2-dimensional array or any dimensional array, 3-dimensional array is continuous. It will be like this. So this is the first 2 cells that comes over here, then the second, then third and then fourth. Okay? So the memory allocated for 2-dimensional array is in fact in continuous form, not like this table form. So table form में हम इसको अपनी आसानी के लिए लिख रहे हैं to understand that it is a 2-dimensional array. So if I show you this before, then it is very difficult for you to understand that this is a 2-dimensional array. This is a 1-dimensional array, right? ये एक dimensional array लग रही है, but actually it is a 2-dimensional array, memory map of 2-dimensional array, 2D array. So why we write this in the table form? Because for the understanding purpose we write it in the tabular form, but in the memory, since you are a C programmer, now you know that how the memory is allocated actually for the arrays. For the 1-dimensional array, 2-dimensional array, 3-dimensional array, 4-dimensional array, the memory allocated is continuous, right? You have to remember this. So you see this is 0001, 1011, 2021, 3031. Now pointers and 2-dimensional array. Each row of 2-dimensional array can be thought of as 1-dimensional array. Like we have an array A that contains 4 rows and 2 columns. So that is a 2-dimensional array. So this is the tabular form of 2-dimensional array. Now you can see we have, this is array 1, array 2, array 3 and array 4. So we can say this is array 1, array 2, array 3 and this is array number 4. So in this 2-dimensional array that has the size that contains 4 rows and 2 columns, it contains 4 1-dimensional array, right? And this is important to know if you want to access 2-dimensional array elements using pointer. So अगर आप pointers access करना चाहते हैं तो आपने ये idea absorb करना है that 1-dimensional array is a group, sorry, a 2-dimensional array is a group of 1-dimensional arrays. So अगर उसकी dimensions हमारे पास इस तरह से हैं 4 rows and 2 columns, so dimensions could be like 14 rows and 100 columns. That is also perfectly fine. So 14 rows and 100 columns, this means that 2-dimensional array contains 14 1-dimensional array and each 1D array contains 100 elements. So but this is a very small 2-dimensional array that contains 4 rows and 2 columns. So that means that this array contains 4 1-dimensional array and each 1-dimensional array contains 2 elements. Agree? ठीक है जी? Now let's see the program. How we access the address of 1-dimensional array in 2-dimensional array. हमारे पास एक 2-dimensional array है. We are going to see using this program that how we can access the address of individual array from this 2-dimensional array. So अभी हमने देखा था कि a 2-dimensional array is a group of 1-dimensional array. So if we have a 2-dimensional array whose size is 4 rows and 2 columns, then this means that there are 4 1-dimensional array and each 1-dimensional array contains 2 values. So this is the memory map of 1-dimensional array. So if we write, so you can see this is a for loop and there's only one printf statement in this for loop. The value starts from, this loop starts from 0 and goes to 3. That means this loop executes 4 times. Now the address of 1-dimensional array is, so what is the value of, so this is this I, the value of I, you know that first it will print 0, then 1, then 2 and then 3, and then what value will be printed over here? S of 0, S of 1, S of 2 and S of 3. We have a S is a 2-dimensional array, it contains 2 dimensions, but here we are going to show 1 dimension. So you can see that we have 4 arrays, right? This is array number 1, array number 2, array number 3, array number 4. So 4 1-dimensional array in this 2-dimensional array, and S of 0 is actually the address of first 1-dimensional array. जो पहली वन डायमेंशनल अरे है उसका एड्रेस होगा s of 0 में, ठीक है, एंड दैट एड्रेस इज 65508. लेट्स से दिस इज द मेमोरी एड्रेस ऑफ द एलिमेंट्स ऑफ दैट अरे. देन so the address of this element 65508 is the address of the first one dimensional array in this two dimensional array. ठीक है, इस टू डायमेंशनल अरे में जो पहली 1D अरे है उसका एड्रेस यू कैन एक्सेस दैट एड्रेस like s of 0, right? Then s of 1 is the address of second one dimensional array, जो दूसरी number 2 one dimensional array है in this two dimensional array, whose address is you can access is using s of 1. Then s of 2 gives the address of third one dimensional array, and s of 3 gives the address of fourth one dimensional array. So अगर आपके पास दो डायमेंशंस हों तो आप एक डायमेंशंस के साथ उसके एड्रेसेस एक्सेस कर सकते हैं, उसके अंदर जितनी अरेज हैं उन अरेज के एड्रेसेस एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. एंड दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू नो इफ यू वांट टू एक्सेस द एलिमेंट ऑफ टू डायमेंशनल अरे यूजिंग पॉइंटर, राइट? सो अ टू डायमेंशनल अरे is a group of one dimensional array. So if we have a two dimensional array whose rows are 4 and column are 2, this means that this two dimensional array contains 4 rows and 2 columns, and using a single subscript element with the name of the two dimensional array you can access the address of one dimensional array in that two dimensional array. ठीक है, so इस तरह से एड्रेसेस हम एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. Now we know each one dimensional array. अब हमें एक वन डायमेंशनल अरे का पता चल गया है टू डायमेंशनल अरे के अंदर. नेक्स्ट थिंग इज टू एक्सेस द एलिमेंट ऑफ 1D अरे. Okay, let me go to the previous slide first. The problem here is we can print the value of this array using S, I and J within the loop, right? But we are going here in this section we are going to access the value of the each element of two dimensional array using pointer, because this S is actually a pointer. Remember in the one dimensional array I told you that the name of the array is actually the pointer to the group of elements that are of same data type. So this S is a pointer to the group of elements and all of them are of same data type. Now we are going to access now the elements of this array using this pointer S. ठीक है, so उसके लिए you have to understand that each two dimensional array is a group of one dimensional array, and using a single subscript element with the name of the two dimensional array you can access the address of the individual one dimensional array in that two dimensional array. ठीक है, so अब आपको साइज देख के पता चल सकता है यहाँ पर इसके अंदर कितनी 1D अरेज होंगी. 4 1D, जितनी नंबर ऑफ रोज हैं उतनी 1D अरेज उसमें एग्जिस्ट करेंगी. So now we know each one dimensional array. Next thing is to access element of 1D array, and we already know how we can access the element. So suppose we want to refer the element number S21 using a pointer. So that is this element. So S21, that is this element. So we can write it like S of 2 give, so we will start step by step. So S of 2 gives the base address of the third one dimensional array. So this is first one dimensional array, this is the second one dimensional array, and this is the third one dimensional array. And third one dimensional array का base address क्या है? 65524. We can access this address if we write S of 2. So S of 2 contains the address of the third 1D array, right? So S of 2, this address 65524 plus 1 gives us 65528, because the type of this address is integer. ठीक है, type of this pointer is integer, so when you add a 1 in it, it points to the next integer value that is 4 byte away from its current position. So if you add 1 in 65524, that is the address, you get 65528. That is the next element in that 1D array. So this means that if I write S of 2 plus 1, so S of 2 is 65524 plus 1. So if I add 1 in it, it gives me 65528, right? This means that by writing static S of 2 plus 1 gives static 65524 plus 1. Agree? And that gives static 65528, and static, you remember the static operator that we can read it like this: value at address 65528, and the value at address 65528 is 80. You can see here in the figure, इस address पे value जो पड़ी है that is 80, right? So first we access that the base address of that array. उसके बाद we access the element number. So if we want to access that first element in that third one-dimensional array, we will add 0 over here or add nothing. ठीक है? So if we want to access the second element in that two-dimensional array, so ये जो हमारे पास एक 1D array है जिसमें दो elements आ रहे हैं, the first element is at 0th index and the second element is at 1th index. And if we want to access the second element, we will add 1 in the base address of the third one-dimensional array, and we will put static, then we access the value at that address. So we already know how to access 1D array using pointer. ये पहले हम देख चुके हैं किस तरह से. That is, if we have an integer array, let's say we have an integer array num, so num of I access will give you the value at the ith index in num array. The same could be accessed using static num plus I. So num is the base address of the array. You will add I in it, and then there is a static operator, so value at this address it becomes. So both will give you the same thing. So let's say if the num I is 2, you are accessing the value of the element whose index is 2 in num array. So num is, let's say, 500. Then here 500 plus 2, then this means that 508, that is the address of the second, that is the address of the 500, 504, 508, that is the address of the third element, that is at index number 2 in num array. So num is 500 plus 2, that is 508, and static 508 will give you the value at address 508, that is the third element or the index 2 element in num array. ठीक है? I hope you remember all these figures that I have showed you when we are in the 1D array. Similarly, so this is 1D array s of 2. We can write s of 2 as static s plus 2. ठीक है? जिस तरह से हम इसको लिख सकते हैं num of I को static num plus I. Similarly, we can write s of 2 like as static s plus 2. So this will become, this whole thing will become static s plus 2 plus 1. So first it will solve this thing, and this will give you the address of this index array. ये जो इंडेक्स यहाँ पे हम स्पेसिफाई कर रहे हैं 2, उस इंडेक्स अरे का हमें एड्रेस रिटर्न करेगा. So it will give, so here the indexes could be 0, 1, 2 and 3, because the array contains 4 rows. There are 4 one-dimensional array. So s plus 2, static s plus 2 will give us the address of the third one-dimensional array in that two-dimensional array, and then we add 1 in that address, and then we will calculate static and the address value at this address, जो भी यहाँ पे address आ रहा है उसकी address पे value. The following expression refer to the same element. If you write s of 2, s square brackets के अंदर 2 and square brackets के अंदर 1, if you write like this and if you write like this, so all these things are the same. So now you can see this is a pointer. S is a pointer that points to the element in that memory location. S is a pointer that points to the first element, or that points to that contains the base address of the group of elements having same data type. Same thing. Let's go and see the program. So this is the program. You can see. अब इसकी जगह the simplest way is, if I comment it out, the simplest way is if I write Control C. I can write like this as well. It will show me all the elements in that array. Compile and execute. So you see, it will show me, it shows me all the elements in that two-dimensional array, right? But if I comment this out and uncomment this block, so this is the mechanism to access the array element using a pointer, because S is actually a pointer. The name of the array is a pointer, that I told you many times when we are at the one-dimensional array topic, that the name of the array is actually a pointer to the memory location where we have the values or the elements containing same data type or having same data type, right? So if I compile this program and execute it, it shows me the same thing. Okay? Okay, let's see one more thing, that is, if we want to check whether the memory allocated for these two-dimensional array is continuous or not, so हम इसके addresses print करवाते हैं. ठीक है? Let's print out the addresses, and the address will print out like address is equal to this one, and so it will print the address of that element, and then we print value is equal to this one, right? Let's print it thus out. Let's see how the output is. Okay. Okay, there's some problem. Now the inner for loop contains two statements. Okay, so we have to specify them in a square bracket. We have to write them within the block of curly brackets, sorry, not the square brackets, the block of curly brackets, because there are two statements in the printf statement, sorry, in the for block. For loop के अंदर अब दो printf statements आ रही हैं, so we have to mention this curly bracket. Before we haven't mentioned it, so the output is not as expected. Now compile it and execute it. Now you see, this is the value of the first element in that array, first element, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, because we said that memory allocated for this array is continuous. ठीक है? So continuous अगर memory allocate होगी तो this is the first element, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth, right? So let's see the addresses. 2628752, that is the first element address. Second element address है 56, same, and then 756, so difference of 4 byte. Next element address क्या है? 2686760, again 4 byte का gap, and then again 4 byte का difference. So you see the memory allocated is continuous for all the elements. We write it in the form of the table because we said this is the row number and this is the column number. And by saying this, it is easy to grab the idea of two-dimensional array. But in memory, the memory allocated for that two-dimensional array is continuous. ठीक है? वो three-dimensional array होगी, उसको भी memory continuous allocate होगी. Now pointer to an array. We have a pointer to integer and pointer to float. In the same mechanism, we can have a pointer that points to an array. So let's say this is an array S, a one-dimensional array S, that contains these 5 elements. This is the memory allocated for that array. Then we have a pointer, memory allocated for a pointer, and if we write this statement, then we can write this, and we can write j is equal to s and then semicolon as well. Both are the same because s and s of 0 both are the same things. Both are the base addresses of that array, that is the address of the first element of that array. So now this pointer points to this memory location. Now we can use a for loop here, and we can print the value of the array element. So when the value of I is 0, static j will print 12 because static j is static 65508. Static 65508 means that the value at address 65508 and that value is 12. And then j will be incremented. Since j is an integer pointer, so the increment of the 4 will be performed. So the next value of the j is 65512. And then the value of I is incremented. Condition is 1 less than or equal to 5. Condition is true. Then in the printf statement you have element is equal to %d and then static j, and static j is static 65512. Value at address 65512 is 17 and 17 will be printed, and so on. And you can print the whole array using a pointer. So you can have a pointer, separate pointer that points to an array, right? Now passing two-dimensional array to a function. How we can pass two-dimensional array to a function? First let's see that program, and then I will show you how this program works, and then we can dry run this program, right? So this is our display function, right? And the return type of this function is void. The function name is display. The first parameter is the integer pointer, is a pointer. That means the first parameter is the base address of that two-dimensional array. Second parameter is the row, and third parameter is the column. Okay, so row are 3, column are 4. So this means that this two-dimensional arrays contains one-dimensional array, 3 one-dimensional array. This is first one-dimensional array, this is second one-dimensional array, and this is third one-dimensional array. Agree? Then here we call the function that is used to display the value. Okay. Now this is a pointer that points to some memory location, जहाँ पर ये वैल्यूज एक कंटिन्यूस ग्रुप की फॉर्म में स्टोर हैं. 4 बाइट्स फॉर दिस, नेक्स्ट 4 बाइट फॉर द सेकंड वैल्यू, next 4 byte for the third value, next 4 byte for the fourth value, next 4 byte for the fifth value, and so on. Okay. Now this pointer points to this element, contains the address of the elements. इस element का address contain करेगा, and this is the row and column number, right? So we have to execute this row and column number. You remember our previous program जहाँ पर हमने देखा था we have 2 for loops within the main function, and we are going to display the value of that array. ठीक है. So 2 for loops क्यों हैं? column और row के लिए. So we want to display the two-dimensional array in the form of rows and columns. अगर आप एक सिंगल फॉर्म में डिस्प्ले करना चाहते हैं, then 4 into 3 12. एक लूप लगाएं for का, start from 0 to 11 and print all the values, right? Like for example, let's try it out. Let's see whether it works or not. So I know there are 3 and 4 12 values in that array. I is equal to 0, I less than or equal to 11, I plus plus. Now I am going to print all the values in a single row. So मैं उसको रो और कॉलम की फॉर्म में नहीं लिख रहा, जस्ट एक ही रो की फॉर्म में लिख रहा हूँ. ठीक है. printf statement %d and then comma p plus I static. Let's see whether it works or not. So p points to a memory location where we have a group of elements. So ये जो group of elements है, ये elements हैं तमाम के तमाम 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. तो 12 elements हैं हमारे पास. ठीक है वहाँ पर. So this loop executes 12 times, and let's see whether it prints the value or not. And we have to increment p as no, there's no need to increment p as well. Let's compile this program, okay, and run it. You see, it prints all those values 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 1 6. So it print all these values. but if we want to print in the form of rows and column, then we have to follow this for loop कि हम rows column और उसकी form में लिखें. Let me comment out this thing. And let's first run this program, then I will tell you how it will work. Now this is a better form. Now you can see, okay, this is a two-dimensional array containing 3 rows and 4 columns, right? Like over here. So for that you have to put /n new line character after printing one row. एक row की print करने के बाद you have to, this is a one row, when you print all this row, then you have to put /n so that the next row will be printed over here. But in this for loop we haven't used /n, we print all the element in the same row, right? So this is another mechanism. So if you know, we can write over here rows multiplied by column, right? So this is the base address, add the rowth index, and this is the column, multiply this I with column, this will be multiplied, and then plus the column index. Okay, so that is the formula. So let's go to the slide and understand what is actually this thing, right? So this is our display function, ये हमारा display function था, and this is the actual row in the main function. This is the actual array, two-dimensional array of integer type, and that is the memory allocated for that array. ठीक है? So that memory is continuous. ठीक है? Right? We have seen this thing 2 times. The first time we print display the addresses of all the elements of that array, and we have seen that there is a difference of 4 because the type of the array is integer and they are all continuous. ठीक है? उसके बाद we have print the array of elements using pointer. In this program हमने एक pointer के through print किया तमाम elements को, and every time we are incrementing, first time 0, then 1, 2, 3, and we are going periodically. हम एक एक का increment करते जा रहे हैं, right? So this is the memory allocated for the two-dimensional array, and here we can see this is row number 1, 2, and row 3, and each row is one-dimensional array, and each 1D array contains 4 elements, that means 4 columns. This is how we call the function, display function from the main. ठीक है? इस तरह से हमने इस function को call किया. We pass the base address of that array. So the address 500 will be passed over here. Then we tell the number of rows and number of columns. So the P points to this position now. So P is a pointer of display function, and P pointer contains the base address of this array, that is 500. Now this pointer points to this memory location, right? And then the value of I is, this is the row and this is the call variable. Row variables को value assign हो जाएगी 3, call variable को value assign हो जाएगी 4, because this is how we call the display function from the main. ठीक है? इस तरह से values assign हो गई हैं. Now the value of I is 0, comes inside the loop. 0 is less than 3, condition is true, so the value of j becomes 0. 0 is less than 4, so 0 is less than 4. So यहाँ पर एक चीज़ देखें कि ये जो column वाला loop है, that will be executed 4 times, 0, 1, 2 and 3, and the outer loop executes 3 times, 0, 1, 2, right? So j की value हमारे पास 0 हो गई है. Now this expression will become this expression, that is very important. So this expression becomes like this. So p plus I static call plus j, that is equal to, if we insert the value, p is 500 plus 0 multiplied by 4 plus 0. So first the multiplication will be performed, so this value becomes 0. It will be like 500 plus 0 plus 0, that means static 500, and the value at static 500 will be printed, and that value is 1. So 1 print हो जाएगा. Then the value of j is 1. Condition in the loop is j 1 less than 4, that is true. Now the statement becomes 500 plus 0, value of I is 0, that means we are at the 0th row, ठीक है, और 0th row में हम तमाम की values print कर रहे हैं. So 500 plus 0 multiply by 4 plus 1. So first multiplication will be performed, this value becomes 0, so it will be like 500 plus 0 plus 1, and you are adding 1 in 500. So 500 is the address, and when you add 1 in it, it points to the next value of integer type, and that is 4 byte away from the current address, and the current address is 500. So when you add 1, it becomes 504. So the value at address 504 is 2. So 2 will be printed on the screen. So this is an array. Let's continue this process. J it becomes 2 now. The condition is 2 less than 4. Condition is true. So this is the statement. It becomes 500 plus 0 multiply by 4 plus 2. So 0 को पहले 4 से multiply करेंगे, it becomes 0. So you are adding now 2 in 500. 500 is the address, and adding 2 means you are adding actually 8. You are pointing to the third value, and then it becomes static 508. Static 508, you read it out, value at address 508, and that value is 3. Next, the value of J is 3, so it becomes 500 plus 3, and that is 512, and static 512 means value at address 512, that is 4. Then the value of I becomes 1. J is again start from 0 and goes to 3. So when J is 0, this is the expression we have to evaluate. Now it becomes 500 plus 1 multiplied by 4 plus 0. So 500 plus 4, 500 plus 4 is 516. Okay, you have to add 4 integer value. So the memory contained by 4 integer, that is 16 byte, you have to add this in this address. So it becomes 516, and the value is 5. Now you see, this is the address of this element, that is the second one-dimensional array. So this is the second row. When the I is 1, the second row, printing of second row will be start, and when the I is 2, printing of third row will be started. Right? You can see, you can solve them by yourself. So when the value of I is 2, so 500 plus 2 multiplied by 4 becomes 500 plus 8. 500 plus 8 means that 500 is a memory address, and you are adding 8 in it. When you add 1, it becomes 504. When you add 2, it becomes 508. When you add 3, it becomes 512. When you add 4, it becomes 516, and when you add 8, it becomes 532. So the value at address 532 is 9. So the 9 will be printed over here, right? So this is how you can access the element of the two-dimensional array using a pointer. So you pass that array to the function by address, and in that called function, that is display function, you use the pointer to access those elements. So this is the actual thing, the formula: the base address plus row number multiplied by number of columns plus column number. So this is number of columns. रो नंबर में हम देखेंगे हम अभी करंट किस रो में है, 0th रो में या 0th कॉलम में है. नंबर ऑफ कॉलम कितनी है, टोटल नंबर ऑफ कॉलम उसमें कितनी है, दैट इज 4. सो 4 विल बी ओवर हियर, रिटन ओवर हियर. नंबर ऑफ रोज एंड नंबर ऑफ कॉलम नंबर, सो रो नंबर एंड कॉलम नंबर आर चेंज इन ईच आइट्रेशन. ठीक है. So row number is the value of I, that is the row number, and J is the column number, and this call is the total number of column in that matrix, two-dimensional array. Now comes to the array of pointers. So array of pointer is an array that contains group of elements, and each element contains the memory address. So the way there can be an array of ints or an array of floats or an array of characters, similarly there can be an array of pointers. A pointer variable contains an address. An array of pointer is a collection of addresses. The addresses present in the array of pointers can be address of a variable or array elements or any other addresses. And all rules that apply to the ordinary array applies to the array of pointers. That means it starts with the 0th index, it has some size, So this is a simple program. Let's see the example program 1. So we have an array whose name is ARR. That is a, so you see a pointer sign over here. This is a static sign over here. This means that this is not an ordinary array. This is an array of pointers whose type is integer. This means that all the elements in that array contains the memory address, and on that memory address the value of type int will be stored, right? Now you see that we have the next statement. In the next statement we are declaring 5 integers. This m is the loop counter and the other 4 are for the array of pointers. So these are the 4 integers. So value of I is 31, value of j is 5, value of k is 19, value of l is 71, and these are the addresses of these variables, memory associated with these variables. So these are the addresses of the first byte of this memory location. So address of first byte of these 4 bytes, because this is I is an integer, so the memory allocated for I is 4 byte. So this block where we have 31 written, this contains 4 byte, and the starting address is 35500, right? Now we assign, so now when you execute these statements ARR0, so this is this element and you are assigning this element the address of I. It will be like this. So address of I is 3550, that will be assigned to the array of 0. Similarly, address of j will be assigned to the 1th index, address of k will be assigned to the 2nd index of ARR array, and address of l assigned to the 3rd index, that is the 4th element of ARR array. Now using loop you can print this value. Ab I, j, k, l की value using this array you can print that value. How? So when the value of m is 0, we have ARR 0. So ARR0, static ARR0, it becomes like this, static ARR0. Now ARR0 is 35500, right? When you put static with this, you can read it out, value at address 3550, and that value is 31. Similarly, ARR1 and ARR value, the value contained by ARR1, the element at index 1 of ARR array is 75690, and when you put static with this you can read it out, value at address 75690, that is value 5. And similarly you can print all these values. So this is a simple program that shows that what is an array of pointers and how to initialize the element of array of pointers. Let's go and see this program. So this is the program where we have an array of pointers containing 4 elements, and here we are initializing that array elements with the addresses of the variable. Now let's compile and execute. So it prints all the element of the variable 31, 5, 19 and 71, right? Now let's see the example program 2. In this program here we are declaring first in the ordinary array whose contain 4 elements, so size of that array is 4, and then we have array of pointers, and array of pointers has also containing 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first value we are going to assign this array of pointer is the base address of that array A, and then the address of 2nd element, address of 3rd element, address of 4th element. Or we can say this is the address of the 0th index element, and this is the address, you can see the pointer in the slide, this is the address of the 1th index element, this is the address of 2nd index element, this is the address of 3rd index element, right? Then we can use for loop to print that value. So this is the memory allocated for that array. The values are 10, 11, 12, 13, and this is the, when you declare a pointer array, it initializes all the elements of that array, pointer array, with these addresses. So that means this value, this address points to the 1st index, 0th index element in 0 array, in array A, and so on. Now this is static P of I. So static P of I is, if you solve it, so the loop starts from 0 and goes to 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, these are the 4 indexes of P array. So P of 0 is 35500, and static 35500 means the value at address 35500, and that value is 10, so 10 will be printed over here. So this can be written as static P of I can be written as, first you can see how we can write P of I. So P of I can be written as static P plus I. This is what we already know, that if we have one-dimensional array, we can access that array using a pointer like this. So replacing this, we can write within this printf statement as static P plus I. So P is, so if we want to solve this, so P is 65518, add 0, so value of I is 0 initially, add 0 in it, so that means 65518, and then you put static with it. Then this means that value at address 65518, and that is 35500, and then you are putting static with 35500. This means that value at address 35500, that is 10 again. So static P of 0 is equal to static 35500, that is 10, and static P plus 0 is static P, and then static 65518. So first you solve this internal inside this static, this inner expression, that is static 65518, value, you can read it, value at 65518. So what is the value at address 65518? That is 35500. So it will become like this. Then you can read it out, value at address 35500. So what is that value? That value is 10. So you can write 10 as. Let's go and see the program. So this is the program. Here we are initializing the array of pointers like this. Let's compile and execute this program, and it will give you 10, 11, 12, 13, the elements of that array, right? So let's see something interesting. I'm using again for loop, or let me first print the value contained by the pointer. These are the addresses of these elements, okay? The value contained by the pointer, that is printf value of pointer elements. So is equal to %d comma P of I. So I'm not putting static over here. Now these values are the addresses, and then we are printing the address of the array. Address of array elements, X. So हम इसको for loop से बाहर लिख देते हैं. These are the addresses of array elements /n, और यहाँ पर address सारे print हो जाएंगे. And let's write outside this statement printf. So in the first for loop we are printing the value of the pointer array, and in the second for loop we are printing the addresses of the ordinary array. Okay, and these are the same actually, because we initialize all the elements of the pointer array with the addresses of the ordinary array elements. Okay, let's see whether they are same or not. Okay, okay, value of the pointer elements are 26867868. You see the address of the array element, they are the same. okay, we have to write here and a of I. Okay, let's compile and execute. Now you see, this is the value of the first element of the pointer array, and this is the address of the first element of the array, and so on. So all these pointer values and the addresses of the array elements are the same, right? Let's go to the slide and let me summarize our arrays section जो हमने arrays के 2-3 lectures में देखा. An array is similar to an ordinary variable except that it can store multiple elements of similar type. So you have to remember, it can store more than one values, multiple values, and all those values contains same type. So compiler does not perform bounds checking on an array. The array variables act as a pointer to the 0th element of the array. In one-dimensional array, 0th element is a single value, whereas in two-dimensional array, this element is the address of one-dimensional array in that two-dimensional array that we have seen today. On incrementing a pointer, it points to the next location of its type. If the pointer is character type, it points to the next byte, that is 1 byte away. If the pointer is integer type, the next value is 4 byte away, and it points to the memory location that is 4 byte from the current position of that pointer. Array elements are stored in continuous memory location, and so they can be accessed using pointer. We have seen this thing that we can access the array element using array name, and we can access using array elements using pointer as well, and how we can pass an array to a function. Only limited arithmetic can be done on pointer. So you can add constant value to pointer, you can subtract a constant value to pointer. A value of pointer is actually it's not the value that is at the address contained by the pointer. Value of pointer is actually the address. That is the value of pointer. A value of integer variable is, value of int is an integer constant. Like similarly, a value of a floating point variable, a float variable is a floating point constant, and a value of a pointer variable is a memory address. That's it for the today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will see what are the strings, and we will see some string manipulation functions. Thank you very much.